Hello, everybody, and welcome to another session of Voices of Healthcare Cloud. We're so excited that you guys are joining us today. We have some really good presenters and content. But before we get on to the content, we do have a couple of housekeeping items that we want to go ahead and share with you. First off, we encourage our attendees to ask questions and to participate in the chat. So please respond to our moderators and let us know where you are joining from. Let us know what city, what state, what country, or even what company you're representing. We'd love to engage with you. This will be a recorded session, so if you love the content and want to share it with your coworkers or on social media, please be sure to check back at our HLS blog for the recording and share with all of your followers. So now how to engage in the Q&A panel. You'll see a couple of slides here. One up at the top, there's a little question mark. This is when it will open up the Q&A panel. So go ahead and hit that. And then once you hit that, you'll see that panel fly out, and then you can type your question. You can include your name there so we know who is asking. If it's a private question, we can respond to you privately. But most of all, we love it when people post questions that other people can benefit from. So we will publish that so the full audience can see, and we will do our best to respond to every one of them. If it's a great question or complex, we'll make sure to ask the presenters to answer that live. So please go ahead and start using the chat and letting us know where you're joining from. So now on to the presentation. We are so excited to have Sarah, Kathleen, and Jake presenting to you today and talking about how we know our healthcare providers and our payers really want to deliver a modern member experience and really engage with their members. And so with that, I'm excited to announce we have Jake Thompson, who's going to be kicking us off with our presentation. Take it away, Jake.
Thanks, Shelly. Hey, everybody. Good to meet you all. I'll probably stay on camera here for the intros, but then probably go behind the scenes for some extra bandwidth, working from home like pretty much everybody. Joining from the Washington, D.C. area, so if anybody's out in the East Coast, happy or good afternoon. And I'm on our Global Black Belt team. I'm joined by my teammate, Kathy. We focus on our healthcare payers and specifically around modern member experience. And then Sarah is actually going to start us off sharing what she's been researching around the current state of the member experience. So Sarah, why don't you take over the intros and we'll just get right into the material for the audience here.
Thanks, Jake. That sounds great. Hi, everyone. My name's Sarah Clock, and I come from the Nuance side. I work in the Payer PBM Enterprise Solutions Marketing team, and I want to talk to you a little bit today about the current state of the member experience. And I'm going to do the same as Jake and go off camera so I can save some bandwidth since I'm working at home as well. But Jake, if you could go ahead and forward to the next slide, please. Thank you so much. So I think as payers or those who've joined us from a payer, friction remains the norm in member engagement. There's still a lot of issues when it comes to providing a seamless omni-channel experience. You have a lot of departments out there. They're all kind of doing their own thing. You don't have a true single champion that is worried about every step of the way where this member is engaging with the plan, if they're getting what they need, and it continues to be an issue. There were strides made towards transformation of the member experience during the pandemic out of necessity. For instance, some payers were able to gain some quick wins by implementing either an IVR or virtual assistant to handle major increases in member touchpoint volume. But unfortunately, a lot of folks have not continued that transformative momentum. In this day and age when members are no longer passive bystanders in their care, several of them are participating in your plan through either the exchanges or maybe they're a Medicare Advantage member. So they're able to pick and choose where they want to be getting their care and who they want to be getting it with. And they're going to want to get it with the best payers out there. You know, this isn't just the old days of commercial members going with their employer and they just basically have to go with whoever their employer chooses. You have a lot of folks out there that are not a part of those plans anymore. And those folks expect the same kind of experience that they're getting from their bank or their phone provider, or even the retailers that they are interacting with every single day. They want something that's secure. They want something that's accurate and personalized to them. So we know that with payers, it's still a major operational and financial concern. And one of the things I want to highlight is a very recent, in May of 2022, Forrester research report that was released on how the disjointed experiences are costing insurers members and costing them money. It's pretty scary, some of the numbers, and I didn't put them on the screen because I didn't want people to get sad during this presentation, but you know, only 22% of health plans today have a single owner of the member experience, a champion for that experience, and they're just not able, most of folks at the payers, to get a clear picture of what is happening with these members along their journey, and that's causing very big issues, right? So there's no strategy. They don't truly know their needs at any stage of the journey, and they're not mapping that out. They're not making sure that they're intervening at the right times, and it's causing friction, and it's causing them to lose members. The other issue that's really prevalent now is that even for those payers who are making transformative change, they may not be testing those changes to see if it's really user-friendly for the member before they deploy it. Maybe they're in a hurry, you know, maybe that may have happened because of the pandemic in some cases, but it's still happening today where they're not making sure, when we deploy this, is it going to cause more problems or is it going to actually make things easier? And then you have the whole issue of there are very few payers that have some sort of core system in place or a single system or data source that's showing a complete picture of the member, and that the data exchange across systems is really able to show that journey from, you know, where it is, where it was yesterday, where it is today, and where it needs to go tomorrow. And then the final thing I want to touch on when it comes to this this experience that's fragmented is, you know, people still are going to call your health plan. The front door is still the phone, and they are not having a good experience when they do that. And they often are on hold forever. Their reps can't help answer questions. They don't have the right context, and they may even have trouble when they do go to other sources, other whether it be digital, whether it be web, mobile. They get confused because those self-service options may not be delivering them the right information as well. So they tend to, you know, they may abandon, they may be frustrated, and this may cause them to start looking. And so that tends to continue to be the norm. The next thing I want to talk about is the other problem that's really on the health plan side that's frustrating their agents. Jake, if you could go to the next slide, please. Data is a very big challenge, right? There is so much out there, and unfortunately, whether you feel lucky or not, the health plan ends up being the one that holds every bit of the data that's available in the healthcare system, right? They may have the clinical data from all of the members' EHRs, or they have all the pharmacy and medical claims, and they have, in most cases, no way to connect it because the data is not structured so that it's interoperable and that you can learn from it. And so, you know, this disjointedness coupled with prohibitive privacy regulations can result in, you know, multiple sources of truth for every individual member. No matter who's looking at which system at a specific time, they're going to see a different picture because not everybody, the data isn't going to be synced and connected to tell them exactly what that journey looks like at that moment in time. And because the journey is not structured, it causes a problem with, the data analytics are probably not accurate, right? So you don't know where that person is in the journey or where they may be headed next. And what that also does is it makes it hard to provide insights to coach your agents on next best steps with the member and how to help them access care or, do whatever they need to do in the next step of their journey. So this causes a lot of frustration, I think, and it ends up being a problem in the long term, keeping agents happy and keeping them with your organization. A lot of times it could be because they're new to the job, or they may be going to several different interfaces to try to find information, or frankly, they may not have access to the system they need to solve that member's issue. When your staff can provide, the right information in the moments that matter, it can have a significant impact on member satisfaction, right? We know in today's world, member satisfaction is more important than ever when it comes to like a Medicare Advantage plan that's seeking the highest star ratings. That in 2023, that rating of member satisfaction is 50% of the weight of your star rating overall. So this is becoming it's critical that these types of data issues and fragmentation issues are handled sooner rather than later. Then just want to talk really quickly, if we can move to the next slide, about some pretty eye-opening numbers on how consumer expectations have changed, I would say particularly over the past 3 to 5 years. No matter what you're doing, whether you're a health plan member, or you're a consumer of retail or banking, you are expecting a personalized experience, right? You want to be known. You want to feel like this person cares that you're giving them your business, or they care that you are with their health plan. And so they're not going to continue to put up with you not knowing them and everything related to that. So like, if you'll find a lot of times that if you deliver a poor customer service or a member service experience, if people are able, when they can get out, they will. So, right, you're going to continue to experience annual membership churn if you provide a poor experience. People will not want to stay with your plan if they have issues working with your reps, with your website, with your mobile experience, whatever it may be. So you'll tend to, see a lot more churn that way. And then you have folks that are really scared of fraud, right? I think we all look at our phones sometimes, you'll see something. I know this happens to me as a consumer. I'll see that it says, do you want me to show your password? I don't know if somebody can see that, and it completely freaks me out. And I'm sure that happens a lot with folks on the phone as well. What if you can get around that? What if your password isn't necessary anymore and you can have a better experience by using your voice? Those types of things. It would be really great if there were more seamless ways of knowing who a customer is and being able to identify them, verify who they are, and move them through the next part of their journey. And then I want to go ahead and switch gears here and talk a little bit about what this means for your business. Because of this bad experience that members may be having, and in many cases, it's causing a lot of issues. Businesses are really needing to transform and pivot and move to a more member-centric focus. Instead of being focused on how they want to do business, they need to be focused on how the member wants to engage. So the ways that they need to do that is by being innovative, right? The only way you're going to grow the revenue or, grow loyalty to your brand is by providing a seamless experience across channels and making sure that you're able to give an accurate picture of where members are in their journey throughout that whole experience, right? You also need to worry about keeping folks with your plan. Like, you want to build loyalty. You want to make sure that you're showing them that you know them, that you want them as part of your plan, and that you're going to care for them and make sure that they have what they need no matter where they are in their journey. You're also needing to make sure that all this data that you have, all their information, it's protected and it's safe, and that they can trust you to continue to do so while they're with you. And then, these types of things, you put this in place, you get rid of these silos, you break it down, you end up with higher satisfaction scores, you can reduce your costs, and really, see transformation for your business. Jake, could you go ahead and move to the next slide, please? So as part of that, obviously today, you just see that we have the current environment. You have everything when it comes to your contact center is disparate, right? We've worked with a lot of organizations, and we know it's really difficult to keep up with the needs of the consumer while things change. So I think that, I don't know, Kathy, if you would have anything you want to add here.
Sure.
Working with customers.
Yeah. We talk to a lot of customers who are experiencing basically what you see on this slide, the fragmentation. We talk about the importance of data and the data being collected, but not necessarily connected. And I think one of the most common causes of this in different scenarios is growth by acquisition, right? If a plan is growing and you're acquiring other companies or, other services, it's quite possible that maybe there are IVR systems, for example, or contact centers that are becoming part of the bigger whole, but they're on different and disparate kinds of systems. So one of the biggest challenges that I see in my day-to-day conversations with customers is pulling this all together, where you have these different platforms, just pulling it together from an operational perspective, and then also questions of privacy and data governance come into play as well. So customers are often looking at, we need a way to pull this all together and pull together quickly while maintaining privacy and, keeping the strong data governance in place.
Right. And so, Jake, if you want to go to the next slide, I think the way that really Microsoft and Nuance is helping to do that is by using cloud technology and taking things off premises, getting it to the cloud where it's more secure, stable, and can be more connected. Right, Kathy? I think that's really where we're headed.
Right. And I think the important thing, you're absolutely right, Sarah. And one of the important things that, again, in speaking with customers every day is, how do I preserve my existing investments in what, could be these disparate systems? And that's why, Microsoft's way is to use a toolbox approach, where, we approach these situations where, we want to keep existing assets and resources in place, but at the same time tying them together in a unified whole so that your contact center agents can experience that 360-degree view of this member, where you have this highly valued relationship with, and it can make their job easier, as well as that member experiencing that really great service. So preserving the assets and tying them into a whole in a seamless way is really what we're all about.
Great. And so with that, I think, Jake, if you want to move to the next slide, that really introduces why we have built this Microsoft Digital Contact Center platform. It's just brings the best of what Nuance has to offer from a contact center, AI, omni-channel perspective, and everything that Microsoft provides for that 365 view, or 360-degree view. Excuse me, I'm looking at Dynamics 365. And the Azure Cloud technology and Teams, and being able to be collaborative and make sure that everything is secure and available, and that it's connected. So I think we were going to move forward. Jake is going to give us a really cool look at how, when these technologies come together, the member can have a really great experience.
Thanks, Sarah. That's exactly where I wanted to go before we get to geek out on, the wizards behind the curtain here. Let's see what this really looks like. What's the art of the possible with a member? What does a frictionless modern member experience look like? So I'm gonna go ahead and let this play out, team, and we'll be able to look into the day in the life of a member, Meredith.
Meredith is a member of an AARP supplement plan. She has seen some reminders that open enrollment is coming, and she's not sure if she has to take any action. She calls the IVR. After authenticating her, the IVR asks the reason for her call. She calls the IVR. After authenticating her, the IVR asks the reason for her call.
How can I help you today? What's the topic you're calling about?
Do anything for open enrollment?
Okay, questions about open enrollment. Currently, there's a 10-minute wait to speak with someone, but you can get help right away through chat with a representative. Can I text you a link to get you connected?
Okay.
Great. When you get the text message, just tap the link to chat. The link will be valid for 90 minutes. Now, is there anything else I can do for you?
No, that's all.
Then enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.
Meredith gets an SMS with a link to start messaging with the live agent. The agent can see what she asked for in the IVR and uses that to open the conversation. The agent answers Meredith's questions in the chat. And enrolls Meredith in autopay when Meredith requests it.
All right, so that's just a quick view into the art of the possible. What a modern frictionless experience could look like for Meredith, the member. And there's a couple things that happened during that story that I wanted to make sure we didn't miss. The first is, the demo said that Meredith was authenticated. Nobody, myself included, can remember their third grade teacher's middle name. This is really the evolution of authentication. Your voice is now your password. And one of the things that we're doing in concert with our Nuance peers is within 0.5 seconds of audio, we're authenticating folks and making that first friction point of proving who you are, but also taking that concern of, am I safe? Is this potential fraud? And reducing that risk in the equation. So authentication has evolved. But the other thing, this is big for anybody that's ever been a member themselves, which is probably all of us. We've probably been on the other end of the line where it's press 1 for claims, press 2 for questions about this. It's a very business-centric tree. What you saw within Meredith's story was a conversational approach. Just let the IVR just let Meredith ask her questions. She probably has many questions that she's bringing to the table. Let her ask her questions in her natural language and just allow the IVR to have a conversation and go where Meredith directs the conversation. So we're going from a business-centric to a very member-centric approach within this voice self-service and automation. One of the questions I think that we always get is, where do I start? Are there areas where we can maybe quickly make an impact? Sometimes, Sarah shared a lot of research about areas for potential improvement, but where the quick wins live. And our teammates at Nuance have almost an entire menu of potential use cases of where to start. Some maybe as straightforward as I'm having trouble logging in, but others that might be a level of volume already going on in the call center that we'd like to automate about how to submit a claim. So those are opportunities for quick wins. Kathy or Sarah, do you have any color commentary on this before I move forward?
Well,
No. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, sorry, Kathy. One thing I'll say is, and folks, we could share this as we're going to share some resources at the end, but we do have a really fantastic story of how Humana, we worked with them to implement a virtual assistant that really, this is their cloud IVR, but we have a story as well about their virtual assistant that they adopted and how much, what a positive impact it had on their contact center business, excuse me, on their volume. And they did actually win an award for that. So we'll make sure that we share those resources at the end of the call, because it's a really fantastic story about how these quick wins can really get you on the path to transformation.
Yeah, and Sarah, building on that, with the quick wins, it is, I think it's really important. And again, customers that I've talked to, typically have areas, let's say the topmost volume of questions, right, that they might want to, either automate or help agents answer. And if not, then there are some areas that Microsoft and Nuance can help as well. We've helped clients, sit down and assess their business and see where they can have these quick wins, because oftentimes implementing this can be a phased approach as well. What are the top 5 most common questions that are asked? Can we automate those and things like that? So we can help actually, assess that, analyze the calls that are coming in, and put forth a path for, potential automation or potential help. And I think at the end of this presentation, we'll talk about ways and programs that we have at Microsoft to be able to do that.
Thanks, team. And y'all in the Q&A chat window, you probably noticed that Shelley just posted the link for this case study, but 26 million plus calls, NPS increase of 80%, pretty powerful customer evidence there. So let's get a little bit more into how does all this become a reality. And it's really about reversing the trends that Sarah had mentioned at the beginning. Unifying, enriching data. We do want to not just collect the data, but connect the data in a compliant and private, secure way. Absolutely. Predicting member intent, next best everything. This is about knowing members in an actionable way. Proactively targeting and engagement. Meredith's story could have started with an effective proactive outreach about the open enrollment for her. Thinking through this, delivering end-to-end experiences, we need to engage in those moments that matter. Intuitive self-service options, folks are clamoring for those. Consistent experience across channels. Again, Meredith's story was one of a voice to a digital hop. But you can have the digital to digital hop. You can have the digital to voice, and then a pause. I have to go pick up the kids. I can't finish this right now. For example, somebody filling out like an HRA assessment, but then pick it back up later on a digital channel. All of that has to be consistent across every channel, especially the digital and physical. And then with internal teams, connecting the experience teams so we can care as one, not siloed teams, with the member right in the middle of our focus. Gartner's published some really good information around what they label as a healthcare consumer engagement hub, which really starts with this concept of how do we understand the member longitudinally, not just in the episodic, but unifying all of the data, claims, consumer data, transactional behavior, demographic, into this concept of a quote unquote data chassis, this experience hub as a foundation, and then working our way up the building blocks. How do we orchestrate engagement governance to avoid that member abrasion in real time, not just the happy path that we think the member is going to take, but based on real-time interactions with our members, engaging them in the channels that they prefer. And I mentioned this earlier, across the digital and physical. I heard the term the other day, clicks and mortar. That's exactly what it is, across clicks and mortar, across teams, marketing, sales, call center, all working together. And then ingesting this data, learning over the data that comes back, these digital signals that we can capture, almost as an antenna, so that we can apply it to future use cases and continually improve our engagement with members. As underlying foundational necessities, intelligence is key. This is going to require some powerful and accurate AI, natural language understanding, to have that conversational experience with a member. We want to have as much of the repetitive automated, so that we're up-leveling the humans engaged and let them do higher work. Yes, we want to work within the existing stack and existing applications that most of our members already have. Collaboration across teams, enterprise trust. Yes, let's have a bot engage with our customer, but we have to make sure those bots are not compromised. And within these building blocks of understand and orchestrate and engage, there's certain folks these are the wizards behind the curtain. The cool stuff is not the tech. The cool stuff is what our customers will do with the tech. And there's 4 personas that we wanted to highlight today, following some additional work that Gartner's doing around total experience. It's not just improving the member experience from a multi-experience perspective, but the employee experience has to be exceptional at the same time. If a member has a great chatbot or IVR experience, we need to continue that consistent experience when the live agent is engaged at certain scenarios. So we'll walk through quickly. I think probably everybody out there has a David in their organization who is the data wrangler. There's definitely Mels in our organization who are those marketing mavens. And we were going to focus a lot of our energy and time on Chris in the call center, as well as Chris's supervisor, Sal. So diving right in, again, I'm going to go fairly quickly through the understand and orchestrate concepts and personas, so we can focus more of the remaining time we have around the call center team. But David needs to be the one that brings in the data. Again, data, Sarah mentioned this earlier, the data that lives everywhere. We want to connect to it. We want to bring it in. We want to capture also engagement data, not just the data that we have already stored, but real, the analytics of how folks are interacting with our enterprise. We want to manage the consent of that data. Now we're honoring the trust factor. We're honoring the privacy. We're honoring the compliance. Unifying that data, map, match, and merge that together so we can start to build out that true member 360 view, but then also enrich that. Microsoft brings some unique enrichment tools from our Microsoft Graph, but what brands are somebody, what's their brand affinity? Enriching from third-party data that we have consent to leverage, but to learn more about Meredith the member, that we can start to create a profile of 1 and n equals 1 in this case of Claudia, but also lookalikes. Who else that we take care of that looks like Claudia, so we can start to engage at a personalized and effective way. There's sometimes AI is seen as an undertaking and maybe a barrier to use. But good news is there are some out-of-the-box models that David gets to use to predict customer churn, lifetime value, but he has a complete tool set that he can work with to do custom AI and build his own unique signature experiences for his health plan. Now, after David has his, chance to wrangle all the data and create these wonderful profiles and AI segments, Mel takes over and starts to map out and create those real-time journey and engagements with the members, with AI channel recommendations, and AI helping her as well with content recommendations, as well as working across different folks within her organization, collaborating on approval processes, making it easier for her to create the content for her members. And as I mentioned earlier, we want to collect all the journey analytics so that we can keep making the experiences better, better, better. Now, we're at the point of engagement where the team, Sarah and Kathy mentioned earlier, this recent announcement around our digital contact center platform. And Kathy, I really like two things that you've phrased as we've made this announcement. One, we want to create the concierge experience for the member. At the same time, we need to have the concierge experience for the agent. Do you mind unpacking that a little bit for our audience?
Sure. Yeah, and I'll draw on my way long time ago past experience as an agent. We all realize that there is heavy expectations on these very valued employees that actually deliver the service. We talk about delivering great service, we talk about NPS scores, but for interactions that are coming into a contact center, the agent is really worth more than worth their weight in gold in actually delivering that service. So what we want to do is, and we're using the Microsoft tools here to bring resources, bring knowledge, bring understanding of the relationship that we have with that member to the agent, and also bringing them resources in real time pertaining to the conversation that we are having with the member and with the history that we have with the member. So we're constantly giving the agent usable information and resources so they can answer questions quickly, they can make suggestions, and they can service that member, and by the way, very efficiently, so that they keep to their KPIs, they keep to the handle time and all the measurements that they're measured on. So we want to treat, just as we want to deliver great service to the member, we also want to deliver the tools, like you said, in a concierge way, so that the agent doesn't have to work to get to that information. It's very easy for them to deliver.
Thanks, Kathy. And if I could ask your opinion on one other, question that I feel like comes up a lot, especially when I share this view with our customers. It seems like, okay, this is a holistic platform, which it is, but the question that keeps coming up is, will this work within our current, Lego bricks? What's your take on that?
Yeah. And we talked about, the goal here is to, from our customers' point of view, preserve the investment that they've made in existing tools, because we realize that maybe some of this, maybe a lot of it, doesn't come from the the Microsoft platform. We want to be the unifying factor, but also agents are used to using these resources. So what we don't want to do is to cause disruption, right? We want to be able to use what they're comfortable using, and unify that into into something that they can use every day. So yeah, and I think we're going to go into some examples of actually how we can do that. So you see a lot of different on this slide. You see a lot of different resources. We want to be the unifying kind of component, basically, that unifies a lot of these things and brings it to the agent so that they can deliver that customer satisfaction. And we'll go into some specifics, especially on the right side, some of the tools that we're using in an upcoming. You're going to show that in an upcoming slide, Jay.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's look at this. Again, I love your phrase, the concierge experience that we want to give for Chris. In the same way that we double clicked in the personas of David, the data wrangler, and the marketing team, Mel and marketing, but looking at a day in the life for Chris, one of the first things to highlight is this concept of unified routing. And that's all about decreasing that resolution time by automatically matching the incoming work, regardless of the channel. If it's voice, great. If it's chat, if it's social, whichever way that request is coming in, we want to automatically match that request, that member, with the best agent. We do that through the sentiment filtering, skills, effort, prioritization, capacity, additional custom business logic that our health plans create. But it's about that eHarmony of the member and the agent, so that we can get to a faster resolution. Kathy, you've lived this. How would this benefit your life looking back?
Well, sure. Well, first of all, it's for me, an interaction coming into me, and let's just assume in this case that it might be the member interacting through a digital channel and then pivoting to voice. They might need an additional assistance from an agent. One of the first things that's going to help me as Chris, the contact center agent, is to understand the context of what this member has been talking to the plan about, right? And so, to the left of this screen, we are looking at a tool that provides Chris with a snapshot of the complete transcript, basically, that as a member, they have been interacting with a bot, so that from the get-go, Chris can say, oh, I see you asked about, a certain question, but you want some additional help. To the right, we see a lot of information about the whole 360-degree view that this plan has with this member. So Chris is easily able to recognize the relationship that this caller has, right? They're a longtime member. They might have, here he's accepting the actual voice call, but he sees to the left a transcript of what's been said to, interacting with the bot. So it's helping him to, save time, to, lessen the average handle time, but just also from a personal perspective, he is able to engage with that caller as a known member, right? He's not asking from the very beginning member numbers or anything like that. I often use the analogy of, Jake, let's say you and I have been working together for a long time. I'm encountering a problem. We work in the same office. I call you and I say, hey, let's meet for lunch. I want to talk about, a problem I'm having at work. I know you can solve it for me. And we meet in the elevator later to go to lunch, and you don't recognize me, or you don't really understand what I even said. Can you imagine how I would feel, as a professional friend, after explaining to you my problem? It's kind of the same thing from the member standpoint. So we want to enable Chris to say, yeah, I understand why you're calling, and I'm here to solve it for you. To the right, you also see, these tools can provide next best action and pull in information based on the real-time conversation that Chris is having with that member, right? So Jake, we both talked about the concierge experience. To the right, Chris, the system is feeding him appropriate information based on the real-time voice that's happening through the Smart Assist to the right. Also, we're capturing that conversation and potentially even translating it if it's in a different language, so that Chris doesn't have to take notes, for example. That conversation is captured, and to the right, the system's constantly, in a concierge fashion, feeding him applications, documents, scripts, whatever he needs to get up to speed. And by the way, if Chris is a new employee, think about for the folks, attendees in the seminar, how many times you have to bring a new employee into your contact center and the effort to train them, right? So this really helps with training, and it helps with, frankly, with employee retention as well.
Kathy, I love your analogies. The ones that I've heard from our customers is there's nothing worse than a member calling in and saying, hey, I just received this in the mail and the agent has no visibility into it and actually has to ask the member to read the letter to them.
Yeah.
So bubbling all of that information up, obviously it helps them communicate, hey, I do know you, and you can take the next step into personalizing the experience. But that there's tremendous efficiency loss with context switching. Like if I have to keep switching between different applications to either schedule somebody on the care team, like a social worker or a home health, I want to do all that in the same console. And then the other thing that you were talking about that's highlighted here, I've heard folks say they love the sentiment feature because they get to see who's coming in hot, and then some suggestions on the right panel of how to steer that conversation. Agent scripting, yes, but how do we help steer the conversation towards a more positive sentiment? And as we continue the conversation around Chris, we've built collaboration into that unified desktop, to that unified, like you were saying, that the concierge experience for the call center agent. So Chris is able to seamlessly share info with folks that are cross org. There's usually subject matter experts that live in other parts of the enterprise, so he can bring in other team members sharing that same data. He can even invite folks to swarm in if something's getting maybe a little too intense. He can bring in those other team members to help drive that conversation. This aspect of collaboration built in without having to context switch between multiple applications, it really helps new folks, maybe new agents to the team, ramp quickly. But in the scenario that there might need to be an escalation, it also helps folks with that warm transfer. So folks that are taking over that call, they can ramp quickly and the member doesn't have to keep repeating themselves. In the interest of time, I'm going to go a little bit faster here to make sure we can get the rest of our content in, but also built in automation. Like, yes, macros, we're all used to building macros, but we've built into this, the agent experience is a complete hyper automation studio under the hood. And it's democratized for folks like Chris or his peers to build out these automations. Like if there's repetitive work that humans don't have to do anymore, Chris can work in conjunction with more of those pro automation folks within the enterprise in like a fusion team setup to make sure that they take that stuff off their plate. So agents like Chris can focus on that higher level, perhaps more complex requests from members and deliver what only humans can, which is that empathy and human touch. Now, Chris's supervisor, Sal, gets to roll up all of this data and what's going on kind of underneath the covers here a little bit is we're leveraging AI to tag all these cases, all these inbound requests so that humans don't have to do that. But then Sal gets all of these insights surfaced up to his dashboard so he can see in real time customer satisfaction measures. He can also see what's going on within the conversation. So both in real time, but also historical, that might help coach agents or see where trending topics are, or perhaps even if the sentiment is going south in one of these conversations that he's alerted to, he could even listen in or even barge in to help out. As he sees these topics trending, Sal or the members of the knowledge management team can create and keep that whole knowledge article lifecycle fresh so that we're delivering the right content, the right best content at the right time for the agents. In addition, Sal or members of Sal's team can look at these trending topics and decide, hey, this is where perhaps a bot could help deflect and help contain better. So we're preventing stuff getting to the human agents, and he can, in low code fashion, drag and drop fashion, start to deploy virtual agents within the organization, and those are right at his fingertips. We mentioned the Humana case study, and I know we're running out of time on today's webinar, but we've done some fun work with our partners at MVP Healthcare. So this case study will be available as well in the package after today's session. But MVP did a lot of work around unifying that customer data and delivering those wonderful wow experiences to their members. And that's really what it's all about. When we look at the business outcomes that we've been talking about today, delivering modern member experience, how do we grow that NPS score? How do we help drive those member experiences and perhaps take from a 4-star to a 5-star rating? We talked a lot about personalization and also safeguarding. It's personalization with privacy, with compliance. The concierge experience for the agents and as well as the members, and also how this can be automated and give those human agents more time to be humans. The Microsoft and Nuance team have helped deliver today's talk together, and we both bring unique capabilities to help our customers, both in the work that we've already done with customers around contact center, artificial intelligence. But as the team was talking about earlier, and as Kathy was talking about earlier, this is meant to be open and flexible. It's meant to work within the existing environment that you already have, but can't talk enough about the security and trusted environment that needs to be brought to the table so that the members know that their data and their lives are protected as you're delivering these wow experiences. We've talked about what this could look like with Meredith's story. We talked about some of the underlying tech that can help deliver this. But at Microsoft, one of the things that we love to do is start with the human at the center. And one of the programs that we offer our customers, we call it Catalyst. It's design thinking. We start with an envisioning workshop, really understand the North Star of where we're going. Where are those macro and micro moments of emotional impact that deliver those wow experiences? We work together with our health plan customers to uncover those, making sure we have clarity around the design from a business value, design from a solution value, and then building a prototype. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, a prototype's going to save us at least 100 meetings. Let's build something quickly. Let's get into folks' hands. Let's test it out and make sure we're on the right track, and really make sure we have organizational buy-in alignment around the solution that we might be able to build. And if all that looks good, let's get into success planning and see how this would be adopted, because that's where the value really comes into play, is when folks are using it. We've got some next steps, but there'll be some links in the IM window and also provided after this webinar for folks to learn more. But we hope today's session was valuable. We can't say thank you enough to all of our partners in healthcare. We've depended on you so much over the last few years now at this point, and just can't say thank you enough. I think we've run out of time for some Q&A, and hopefully we've answered all the questions in the IM window. I want to remind everybody, coming up on October 9th, we have another session around empowering health team collaboration, and really excited on the 16th, Dr. Patrick McGill from Community Health Networks is going to be joining us to talk about consumer experience. And again, these links will be provided in the IM window. But again, thank you, and we'll tune in next time.